Good morning, guys. How
Good
y'all
morning,
doing?
nomination.
Where are you streaming from? Let us know. Tell us in the comments. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Please consider being a member, becoming a member if you haven't already. Nikki, how you doing? How's your morning been?
It's fantastic. As
Fantastic.
good as it can be, I guess.
It's a lot better than Trump's morning. We'll get into that in a
Yeah.
minute.
But
Um,
we should update everyone. Anyone who has not been with us for the past few days, I know obviously we are not Don. Don is currently dealing with a family matter. His sister sadly passed away. He is so very appreciative of all of your prayers and thoughts. He will be back soon, but he's taking some much needed time with his family right now. So for today, you have us.
And please know that we've been relaying all of your prayers. In fact, I think he's tuning in now and then and seeing all of the kind thoughts, all the well wishes that you guys are putting in the chat, and they mean the world to him. So thank you. And thank you for sticking with us because, as Nikki just said, we're not done, but we still want to provide you with at least some of the content that you like and that you expect from the Don Lemon channel, the Don Lemon Media Network. So, Nikki, we have some news. We have some big news, actually.
News?
The first,
2025?
I know, news on the Don Lemon Show. Crazy. What a concept. The first deal post Liberation Day seems to be taking place later this morning. Andy, could you throw up our first element? So let's read through this, gang. Trump confirms he will sign first post-tariff trade deal with Britain. President Donald Trump previously dismissed critics who asked how many deals he has brokered after he paused plans for some tariffs last month to allow for negotiations. Andy, can we just read through the first couple paragraphs, and then I want to hear from a trade expert. All right. President Donald Trump said early Thursday he will sign a trade deal with the UK that will be America's first since he announced sweeping global tariffs that hammered markets and threatened to upend the global economy. In a post on Truth Social, he wrote, quote, "This should be a very big and exciting day for the United States of America and the United Kingdom. Press conference at the Oval Office, 10 a.m. Thank you." So, Nikki, there's some disagreement over whether or not this is a big deal, whether or not this is a exciting day. Andy, could we take a listen to a trade expert who was on with CNN's Laura Coates last night?
Source telling CNN tonight that Trump is going to announce a trade deal with the UK tomorrow. Is that something you would consider a major trade deal?
No. So let's get some numbers and some context for the people at home. The United Kingdom, wonderful country, lovely people, love myself some fish and chips, don't mind their beer, but they're our 11th largest trading partner. They account for count them, 3% of American trade. And if I took off all my shoes and socks and got 4 more people in the room, I'd be able to tell you that that leaves 97% of American trade are absolutely up in the air. Now, Laura, I want to tell you one more fact that will blow your mind. Go back 6 weeks ago. The average tariff the United Kingdom charged to countries around the world was 1%. That's the stakes here. So the best we can do is knock the United Kingdom down from 1% to 0, and it's already clear we didn't get them to 0. And along the way, the president is imposing a 10% tariff on the United Kingdom, making it harder for Americans to do business with trading partners over in the old Dart.
So why do you think he's announcing this with the UK? What is the game plan here to suggest that this is much bigger deal than you say?
Oh, the president's a showman. He's going to tell you that there's all sorts of wonderful things about it. This is a country with a king and a queen, and they have beef eaters and all sorts of things, but they're not remotely central to us. The other thing to realize about the United Kingdom, bless them, but they're sort of the guys who walked away from trade very recently. They're particularly looking for friends. You might have been at high school once and there was someone who told their whole group of friends to go stuff themselves. That's the United Kingdom. And once you do that to your friends, you very quickly go looking for another friend group, and you'll find that other friend group wherever you can.
Nikki, are you tired of winning yet?
Oh my God, this is absurd. It's It's clearly performative. I mean, what did he didn't he promise 90 deals in 90 days? He's going to get us all of the deals. Meanwhile, there's no deals. There's none. And now we have this deal, which isn't going to remove the 10% tariffs, and they can't go any lower than they are. So what are we looking at? I feel like this is just a way for him to be like, look, I won something. I did it. I got a deal. Yay me. And this is his signature move. He makes a situation terrible, then slightly walks back on something, and then claims it as a win.
Yeah. I liked, Andy, the comment you had up a second ago. Are we great again yet? Are we great again yet? Well, Nikki, believe it or not, it's not just you and I. It's not just, liberal cucks who are distraught, who are concerned about Trump's tariff regime and these BS negotiations. It's also some Republicans. It's also some pretty high-profile Republicans who are not yet, super open, super outward with their criticism, but they're beginning to edge a little bit closer to getting there. Andy, can we play Ted Cruz on CNBC this morning? This was just a few minutes ago, folks.
There are those in the administration who, just like tariffs, want trillions in new taxes, and they're the exact same people who are saying, gosh, we should raise taxes on the top level, and that would be a tax on every small business, every job creator. And you know what? That's what Kamala Harris campaigned on. That's what she promised. And I got to say, the folks in the administration, they've decided to call themselves populist, but just being a Democrat and wanting higher taxes and more regulation, that's not populist. That's embracing the failed ideas of Jimmy Carter and Joe Biden. Let's not do that. Let's be real populist, which means fighting for blue-collar workers and jobs. That's what I'm doing every day, and I think that's exactly what President Trump is doing as well.
Well, Senator, have you had that conversation with President Trump? Because clearly he's not doing exactly what you're saying.
On which piece?
A couple of them.
Well, a whole bunch of them.
All of them.
Right? There's still a conversation. The tariff piece is right there. You just said that you don't like the tariffs and you'd like them to be negotiations. He is trying to negotiate, I guess, but I think we still don't know. If you look at some of the tweets or Truth Social posts this morning, he's very happy about all the revenue that he's bringing in as a function of those tariffs. So remember, we've had this sort of incongruity about what's really happening here.
So Andrew, your point is fair. There is a divide in this administration. There are two camps on tariffs. By the way, there are also two camps on raising taxes, and I think the same camp is wrong on both of those. I believe that President Trump has an historic opportunity. I can tell you we have over 130 nations who have come to the White House, said, let's make a deal. We want to lower tariffs. We want to open up our markets. That is extraordinary, and I don't know which path we'll go down. I pray we don't go down the path of massive taxes and massive tariffs forever. If we go down the former path of using this leverage, there would be a rich irony if Donald J. Trump ended up the most free trade president that this country has ever seen. He has the opportunity to do that. You're right, we don't know yet, but I got to say a lot of folks in the media are ready to say, oh, we won't see that happen. I am hopeful. I've had that conversation multiple times with President Trump. There are a number of other people, including Scott Bessent and Elon Musk, who are urging the president, you have an opportunity to win one of the biggest wins for American workers we've seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing about that clip, Nikki, is when he says there's two camps. There are two camps. There's ideological diversity in the White House. And he notably name drops a couple of folks at the tail end of that clip. He says Scott Bessent. He says Elon Musk. He also leaves out Howard Lutnick. And he leaves out effectively everyone else in the administration. The only people in that other camp, in that other half of the White House, are Donald Trump and Peter Navarro. That's it. Those are the only people who feel this way about tariffs. In fact, Andy, it's too late. We don't need to find it. But maybe when we play another clip, I want to find the reporting that when they announced the pause or the temporary pause on some of the tariffs, it was because Peter Navarro was busy in a meeting and Howard Lutnick, Nikki, do you remember this? And Scott Bessent, bum rushed the White House or bum rushed the Oval Office to chat with Trump 2-on-1 because they knew Navarro would not be there to get him to announce a bit of a rollback. It's literally, there are no camps. There are no sides. It's everyone and then Trump and Navarro. That's it.
And Ron Vera.
And Ron Vera, yes. And John Barron, of course.
Of course. Sorry.
And Qatar revanche.
Trump, Navarro, and their imaginary friends. First of all, why is Ted Cruz still relevant? I feel like nobody ever wants to listen to that man speak. But yeah, this is fascinating because you can watch them do their mental gymnastics while they're standing there. Like, they don't want to speak out against Trump, but they also don't like this, but they know they can't really say anything. Just waiting for one of them to spontaneously combust.
It's so good. Guys, if you're just joining, let us know where you're streaming from. Let us know what you're drinking, if you're having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea as you enjoy the show. Also, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Consider becoming a member if you're not already. Andy, could we throw up a tweet from our good friend Tim Miller, who I think this morning summed up well MAGA's current messaging when it comes to these tariffs, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to the economic crisis, this man-made economic crisis that they've saddled upon the country. So what Tim says, if you're listening on Spotify, the current GOP messaging on manufacturing. Howard Lutnick, families will be screwing in screws on iPhones for generations. Andy Ogles, El Salvador prison labor will make our goods. Trump, little girls won't need dolls anymore. You don't need $30, you can have 2 or 3. Scott Bessent, cheap, affordable televisions are not the American dream anyway. Nikki, is this a winning message? What does this say to the median American voter?
It's just watching MAGA try and rewrite what the American dream is to fit their own, like, robber baron narrative. It's absurd. You don't need things anymore. I know that you wanted things. You don't need this stuff. You don't need this stuff. Just go to work, live your life working 15 hours a day, come home, and eventually die, because Lord knows you won't ever be able to retire either. And the fact that this is coming from billionaires, I just don't understand how anybody can still support this in the MAGA base, especially so much of the MAGA base that they are low-income Americans. How is the message of you just need to have less and be happy about it?
Yeah.
How is that working?
No, exactly on that point. I was going to say, in the past few months, or in the past month since Liberation Day, there have been a couple of phrases, memes you might call them, that I see time and again on Twitter. For those of you in the chat who don't know, I am so Twitter addled. I need to do it for work, but I am literally on Twitter probably 14 hours a day. And the phrases I see time and again are, you will have nothing and you will love it. That's just the phrase that people use in retweeting comments from Scott Bessent, comments from Trump about the dolls, as Michaela J. references, any of these folks. And then the other phrase I see time and again is, the children yearn for the mines. The children want to go back, and the children yearn to work in factories. They yearn to screw in little screws in iPhones. And of course, like, that one's almost too dark of a joke, because we see in a bunch of these Republican states, they're actually bringing back child labor. It's very dark.
And they're bringing back the mines.
They are, or at least they're trying to. So on the topic of $30, on the topic of you won't need 250 pencils, you can have a couple of pencils. Nikki, we chatted about this earlier this week, I believe, but I think it's worth reminding folks, it's worth hammering home, when Trump and company say this, let's not lose sight of how they raised their children. Of how
they mean for you. They mean for everyone else, not for them. These restrictions, these moderations in their life do not apply to them. They still expect to live in luxury. This is classic authoritarianism.
Andy, could we play that great mash from the recount, please?
They need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
Barron's famous parents gave us an exclusive look at the nursery, complete with a gold baby carriage.
This is from Barbara Walters. You're basically saying there could be some supply shortages because of the tariffs.
We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need, for junk.
Kill the slab.
Bon voyage.
You want to have this watch? Very nice. We're at your house, Mommy. Okay, we are. So now get up.
I have no words. I have no words.
How has this man managed to position himself as the so-called man for the working class? I will never understand. I just do not understand it.
For those of you who missed it, last night our 8 p.m. drop was a conversation with Jack Cocciarella, the great Gen Z YouTuber. I'll put it in the link towards the end of the show. And one of the things that he mentioned during our conversation is how MAGA is so obsessed with aesthetic, with the look of things, with presentation. And I think it was a really good point. And you see this manifesting, or you see this manifest in many ways, whether it be the MAGA makeup that Dawn chatted with Suzanne Lambert about a couple of months ago, where all of the women in the MAGA movement are very particular. And by that, I mean almost zombie-like in how they all have the exact same makeup routine. No creativity, no diversification. It's the exact same type of bronze. I don't know makeup, Nikki.
Watch the Suzanne Lambert piece. She will explain it to you and do a little demonstration.
But yeah, from the MAGA makeup to the fact, like, look at it in their dress too, where within a couple of years of having Trump come on the scene, now all MAGA Republicans dress the same way. Sort of the oversized black suit and the extra long, oversized red tie. Always, of course, an American flag pin too. And then, sorry,
the women, lots of crosses.
Yes, lots of crosses. And then you also see it manifest in how they decorate rooms. The interior design is all very similar, where it's extremely ostentatious, extremely, dare I say, gauche. Gold everywhere, big, just classless grossness. Like, look at what Trump has done to the Oval Office. It's very odd.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm so baffled by this whole concept of how they managed to convince so many American people, so much of the American middle class, that they're fighting for them, because they don't even hide it.
Yeah.
In fact, they outwardly try to present that. They're a representative of the lavish lifestyle. I just don't understand how anybody fell for it.
Andy, thank you for throwing up that image, because my goodness, it's just, and we're not talking about this today. This is a very quick tangent, but you guys should look into sometime this week or next week. We'll do a segment on Trump's crypto coin, because it's just absolutely crazy. I was listening to a report earlier today. Ended up not making the cut in the show because it was a bit too far afield. But Trump's crypto coin pretty much crashed in value the second day of the administration. And I won't have the numbers exactly right here, but friend of the show, Scott Galloway, was saying that upon that crash, it was something like 58 or so people who had bought, who had invested in Trump crypto coin, made a tremendous amount of money, loads and loads of money. And tens of thousands of other people who had previously bought in just lost everything. And overwhelming, like, sure, maybe a couple of those 58 were folks who just got lucky, but overwhelmingly, that's just like Trump and his cronies. And all of the folks who lost money are his small dollar donors, folks who put in $20, $50, maybe $100. And then all of the rich folks cashed out. Yeah. Ugh. My goodness.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Nikki, any last words you want to have? Any last words to say about Trump and the tariffs and whatnot before we move on to MAGA?
Just remember, it's all a show.
Yeah.
Everything that's going to happen, this is all because of him. When we see prices start to go up and supplies start to drop, which we are seeing already at the ports, so it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
And his fake little deals. aren't going to really do anything.
No, they will not. I keep seeing, so I'll do two updates because I'm seeing folks ask about a couple of different things. One, yes, we're not Don Lemon. We missed Don Lemon. Don stepping away this week because he's dealing with a sad family matter. His sister tragically passed away on Monday, so he's dealing. He's just spending time with family. They're celebrating her life this week, and he will be back soon. Don't worry, and your prayers mean the world to him. We've been relaying them to Don all week. And then secondly, I'm seeing a lot of folks asking us to pay the bills and to do the ad read. Nikki, do you want to explain that?
Yes, I was doing the ad reads, but we did not forget. We're just not Don, and apparently the ad reads don't mean as much coming from us. So we will have our sponsors back next week when Don is back on.
Yes.
Thanks, Andy.
Let's power ahead then. Let's talk about MAGA. Andy, would you mind throwing up that full screen rather? So let's talk about the leopard eating people's faces party. I think I almost got that correct. MAGA eats their own. MAGA Civil War. These are all the potential thumbnail options that we were debating this morning, folks, because there is trouble in paradise. As you see on your screen, Trump's first choice for Surgeon General becomes his latest personnel failure. Former Fox News contributor Jeanette Neshwat was an odd choice for Surgeon General. As her nomination collapses, Trump's list of failures grows longer. Are you tired of winning yet? Let's just get a bit into this article. While Donald Trump's more notable personnel decisions took a long time, while some of Donald Trump's more notable personnel decisions took a long time, he wasted little time in announcing that Fox News contributor Jeanette Neshwat would be his choice for Surgeon General. Trump made his decision just 2 weeks after winning a second term. While most of the president's early personnel choices have already been confirmed by the Republican-led Senate, Neshwat, a family medicine physician, has waited for months for a confirmation hearing. We then have an ad for our friend Jen Psaki. This week, the doctor's wait was supposed to be over. The Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Help Committee was scheduled to hear directly from Neshwat this week. Now, there's no need for that hearing to proceed. The president announced, by way of his social media platform, that Neshwat's nomination is no more. He failed to explain why, adding that he will instead nominate Dr. Casey Means for the position. The Associated Press describes Means as a, quote, wellness influencer with close ties to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Trump's missive went on to claim that his first choice for Surgeon General will work at the Department of Health and Human Services in, quote, another capacity. And let's just go a little bit further because I think... let's just read this. For advocates of science and public health, the demise of Neshwat's nomination is not exactly discouraging. A HuffPo report from the fall detailed her background and noted the physician's record as a Trump loyalist with little public health experience, presumably a prerequisite for a Surgeon General who made highly problematic on-air comments about hydroxychloroquine during the pandemic. So, Nikki, we'll dive into Ms. Means in a second. Oh, yeah, sure, we can say this. Just notably, Neshwat sold dietary supplements featuring her image on the bottle, which included the highly dubious claim that within a few weeks, your immune system will be strengthened. So, Nikki, as I said, we can talk about Casey Means in a moment. But first, your thoughts on Neshwat, on Trump's latest personnel failure, on her sketchy history on hydroxychloroquine. Break it all down.
Yeah, look, I'm not in any way upset to see her go. I am sad that she's still going to be there, and it's not like she was replaced with a good choice. It's just, I understand this administration seems to only care about loyalty, and this is just a position that you really need qualifications here. The Surgeon General is an important position to have. I mean, I guess as is the head of HHS, but that didn't really stop them from putting a psychopath in there.
Because what does the Surgeon General do exactly?
They're basically the one who's responsible for, I believe it's disseminating public information on public health and science and scientific initiatives around health, to basically informing the public of this. So to have someone that makes such outlandish claims is upsetting. I do remember Neshwat during the pandemic with her all that bullshit about hydroxychloroquine, which was personally infuriating for me. I think I've mentioned this to the 11 heads before, that I have lupus, I am on hydroxychloroquine, and it makes it very frustrating when it is being peddled as a for non-scientific means, and then those of us that really need it cannot get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, it's an immunosuppressant. Don't take that for COVID.
During a pandemic, taking an immunosuppressant. Genius.
Don't take that. But yeah, it's upsetting as someone who is immunocompromised to see all of these horribly unqualified people being put in positions that are going to very much impact the health and wellness of everyone in the country.
Yeah. Also, not a novel thought, not a novel observation, but it's still stunning to me how many of these high-ranking officials in the administration are literally off of Fox's casting couch. Pete Hegseth, former Fox News morning show host. Neshwat, as we noticed, was a Fox News medical contributor.
When there's transportation secretary.
Oh yes. Oh shoot, I'm blanking on his name. Rachel. It's Rachel. Yes, Duffy. Sean Duffy, husband of Rachel Campos Duffy, who is still a Fox weekend morning show host. Pete Hegseth's former colleague. It's stunning to me how much of this administration, both its personnel and its policy, is a direct result of the orange bad man watching television, right? Like, again, the personnel, as I just said, but then also the policy where Alcatraz,
Exactly.
we almost, I won't say we have proof per se, but there's now reporting that the hour before Trump tweeted out his missive about Alcatraz, Turner Classic Movies was playing the movie Alcatraz. And who's to say, maybe it's just a total coincidence, but we know the man loves old movies. We know that he loves to sit in front of the television, and we also know that he's highly influenced by it all. Yeah. Let's move on to Casey Means, because she is another...
Comment, why not just nominate Dr. Dre? Thank you. Yes. I mean, I also saw someone said something like being unqualified is the qualification. And that's, we said that this morning. I would have honestly been more shocked if they nominated a qualified person. So yeah. I just, this seems to be their game.
Yeah, I Nikki, you may recall this, but on a editorial call from a week or two ago, we were chatting with Don, and I was referencing something I think actually, again, friend of the show, Scott Galloway, had said. And there was an old joke from the Cold War era, no, before the Cold War era, about National Socialists, which are, of course, Nazis. And I'm going to butcher the story, but the long short is an American traveler goes abroad, spends some time in Germany, comes back, and is asked about his experience there. And they say, well, what did you think of the National Socialists? And he says, well, I like them. And his buddy says, what do you mean you like them? And he says, well, I like them because they're very easy to understand. There are only 3 types of National Socialists. And his buddy says, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, you can either be a true and proper National Socialist, as in you're loyal to the state and you're intelligent, but then I know that you're not honest. Or you can be a National Socialist who's true and honest and loyal to the state and honest, but then you're not intelligent. Or you can be intelligent and honest, but then I know that you are not a National Socialist who is loyal to the state. And I just feel like that is so fitting of the MAGA movement right now, where everyone in the administration fits into one of those holes, where I think Scott Bessent is intelligent and loyal to MAGA, but is not honest. Caroline Leavitt is, well, actually, no, there's a 4th category, because I don't think Caroline Leavitt is particularly intelligent or honest.
Yeah.
So I guess I've been proven wrong. That 4-minute...
MAGA takes it to another level.
But that was a tangent. Let's dig into our friend Casey Means. All right. So Trump's new pick for Surgeon General dropped out of medical residency and has an inactive medical license. As Nikki just said a second ago, this will be the woman who is in charge of spreading critical information about health and wellness for the entire country. She dropped out of medical school and has an inactive medical license. Wonderful.
She did not drop out of medical school. I just want to make a clarification.
Apologies, sorry.
She finished medical school. She dropped out of her residency.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep me honest. Not like, yeah, don't let me be Caroline
I am not
Levitt.
defending her. I just have to have to keep the facts straight.
All right, let's dig into a bit of this reporting. Like many of President Donald Trump's nominees, his new pick for Surgeon General has not followed the typical career path for that position. Dr. Casey Means, a 37-year-old wellness influencer, is drawing criticism over her support for controversial alternative medicine therapies and lack of qualifications. Trump's original choice, they talk about Neshwat a bit. We can skip that portion just because we know her. Let's get back into Casey Means. Means did earn a medical degree from Stanford University, but soon diverged from her traditional career path for doctors. From the traditional career path for doctors. After graduation, she was accepted into a residency for head and neck surgery, but dropped out before completion. In contrast, Neshwat completed a residency program at the University of Arkansas, is board certified in family medicine, and was a director of an urgent care provider in New York City. Normally, residency placements are highly competitive, and resident doctors do not withdraw without a plan to pursue a residency in a different specialty. Not completing a residency would mean that a doctor would not be eligible for board certification or be able to be hired for certain positions that entail practicing medicine without the supervision of attending physicians. Over the past few years, Means has gained fame and influence within various wellness circles, including the Make America Healthy Again, MAGA movement, promoted by RFK Jr. She's also appeared on numerous podcasts, including, of course, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Megyn Kelly, friend of the show, as well as having her own podcast and newsletter, and was a staunch supporter of Kennedy's nomination for Health and Human Services Secretary. Her company, Levels, sells continuous glucose monitors, and she promotes controversial claims about sugar levels, metabolism, nutrition, autoimmune disorders, and other issues. All right. Nikki, any thoughts on this? Or should we talk about what Laura Loomer thinks about this woman?
Look, I mean, Lord knows I don't give a single fuck what Laura Loomer thinks or says ever. But I will say, generally, the Surgeon General is someone who has practiced medicine. And while, yes, she does have a medical degree, she has not. There's also, I know that a lot of her supporters will claim that no, she just took a more unconventional route. But the problem is, if your unconventional route is basically saying that science doesn't matter, that's incredibly problematic for a role that is going to dictate how science is used to impact the health of everyone in this country.
Also, what should be lost on no one here is think back to a couple of months ago when Republican senators were considering RFK Jr.'s nomination. Part of the defense for his nomination, part of their defense for voting for it, was that, okay, maybe RFK Jr. is a bit of a crackpot. Maybe he has an unconventional path, an unconventional history with health and wellness. But look at Neshwat. You know, she's certified, she's got a medical degree, she's a practicing physician, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll have people around RFK Jr. that can curb his, let's call them more unconventional excesses and eccentricities. Now, all those people who are supposedly, meant to hold him back, constrain him a bit, they're just as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, allegedly, as he is.
Well, yeah, it's all about loyalty. And then loyalty within this department to the head of this department. They don't want and to be challenged. They don't want a different opinion on anything, nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I've said this, like I do like some of the talk about making healthy food accessible, trying to make the environment more healthy, which Lord knows they're not doing. In fact, the exact opposite. But they seem to want like she's a wellness guru essentially. They seem to want these wellness concepts with the expense of science. Like, we don't have science, we're going to just do this, and that could be so. If we have another pandemic, we're absolutely fucked.
Yeah. My lord. So Andy, I know that we have 2 Laura Loomer tweets. Can we put up the first one, which begins with, "In case you've been sleeping"? Yes, thank you. So Laura Loomer, I'll quickly read what she has to say, and then I want to talk about Ms. Loomer for a second. So she tweeted out, this was just this morning, "In case you have been sleeping, MAGA is literally being taken over by Marxists and grifters. Hardcore Marxists have forced their way into the administration. The entire MAGA movement is being taken over by Marxist Trump haters. It's a full-fledged vetting crisis, a total crisis." Okay, lots to unpack there. First of all, I'd love her to define Marxism, but that's for another day. Andy, can we throw out the second tweet? Because that was whatever, but the second tweet is really interesting to me. So, Loomer says, quote, "President Trump's pick for U.S. Surgeon General Casey Means says she prays to inanimate objects, communicates with spirit mediums, uses mushrooms as plant medicine, and talks to trees. She also doesn't even have an active medical license. The inmates are running the asylum." This is literally from one of Casey Means' newsletters. I have the entire page archived and took screenshots. Yada, yada, yada. I think that we can kill it there. Or she does refer to the surgeon, or the soon-to-be, perhaps, Surgeon General as a total crackpot. And yes, reiterate, she once again talks to trees.
This is Laura Loomer saying this, so...
Well, that's the thing. So that's what I wanted to touch on, Nikki, because once again, I think I mentioned this to you, Don, and Andy in an editorial call quite some time. I said, I want you to consider something for a second. In the first Trump administration, you had folks like Jared Kushner. You had folks like Ivanka Trump. You had folks like Steve Mnuchin. You had folks like Gary Cohn. You had folks like Dina Powell. Now, I don't particularly like or care for or even respect Dina Powell and Gary Cohn and Jared Kushner and so on and so forth. I think several of them are grifters and are pretty objectively terrible people. But if you go through, say, for example, Bob Woodward's reporting on that first administration, there are a ton of folks that I just named who would restrain and constrain Trump constantly and work against his most terrible impulses to keep the entire administration and the entire country, frankly, from going off the rails. Obviously, they were only semi-successful because we had a coronavirus pandemic in the 4th year, but I digress. So I raise all those people. I raise Cohn, I raise Powell, I raise Mnuchin and the like, because, Nikki, who are the so-called adults in the room this time around?
Oh, there are.
Who is restraining and constraining Trump this time around?
If
there's anyone at all, it's Laura Loomer. It's Laura Loomer now. Yes, exactly. It's nuts. I mean, I know it's in her tweet that she just released this morning, the inmates are running the asylum. I couldn't agree more, Laura Loomer. The inmates are running the asylum.
Turn that back. Take a look at yourself, sweetie.
Also, the fact her last name is Loomer is just almost too on the nose.
Yeah, this is terrifying. I mean, look, the accusations she's making, talking to trees, and what did she say? She's smoking shrooms and talking.
And she worships spirit, or she communicates with spiritual mediums, and yeah.
I mean, if that is true, yeah, that's terrifying. I don't want that woman in anywhere near making policy related to science or health. But I mean, I don't want Laura Loomer in there either. I just feel like I can't think of a single person currently in the administration that I'm like, okay, maybe they're not terrible.
Yeah. My goodness. Andy, could you please throw up, we have one more. Sorry, say again.
Benita said there are no adults in the room.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Before we get to the Shanahan tweet in a second, Andy, I do want to pick up on that because I was chatting with a friend the other day and I said, you know what's got to be an extremely disorienting reality for all the folks in this administration? If you're sitting at the cabinet meeting table and you're listening to all of these folks like Pam Bondi deliver, the North Korean-esque soliloquies, just lavishing your leader with praise. When you look around that table and when you look within yourself, you must realize that everyone around you is either a Machiavellian, soulless liar, completely dumb as bricks, or both.
And batshit fucking insane.
And that, like, for any of the folks who even have just a scintilla of self-awareness, of I don't know, critical thinking skills, that's got to be extremely difficult to grapple with every single day. Knowing that all of your colleagues, everyone around you is either batshit crazy, an abject liar, dumb as bricks, has no loyalty to you, will knife you the moment that you have fallen out of favor with MAGA. That's got to be difficult.
Yes and no. Like, I mean, it would be difficult for someone like you or me if we're sitting there. But the thing is, that's the point. None of these people have that moment of self-realization. And if they do, they have no convictions, so they don't give a fuck. And it's by design. If anyone did have that moment where they're like, wow, this is problematic. Everyone here is saying insane things. They seem to have no qualifications. Yeah. This is not good. They're going to immediately be removed and replaced with someone that will just partake in the lavishing dear leader with praise, endless praise.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rubio's a great example.
Yeah, he really is. Remember in 2012 Remember that 2012 post-mortem that the Republican Party did where they were like, Marco Rubio is our principled leader that can help us win back the working class, help us make inroads with Hispanic voters. And he's a smart, good man who can save the party.
I don't know if I'd ever go there, but
great GOP's words, the GOP's post-mortems, not mine, to be clear. Please do not come at me in the comments.
Don't clip that out and put it somewhere about Peter.
Peter Rothplatz, Marco Rubio voter.
No, I've never been a fan, but he wasn't as insane as a lot of the others. But that's my point. Like, it doesn't matter. Because all the ones that are sitting there, they've made the decision that if they had any convictions, they don't anymore.
Well, the other thing, and this is a bit of an aside, but Marco Rubio now has 4 jobs. 4 jobs in the administration. He is the Secretary of State, of course. He is now the acting National Security Advisor. He is the National Archivist. And there's one. Oh, and he's the current administrator of USAID. 4 jobs. Great find, Andy.
Oh, that's amazing.
He's got 4 fucking jobs. Wait, Ernest question, does that mean he gets 4 salaries? Is this a grift? I don't know.
In this administration, I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like the goal of all of them is just get rich.
I actually, that's an earnest question. I'm going to do some research later. I wonder if he's getting 4 salaries for those 4 jobs. For those of you who are history buffs, you'll find it interesting that no one since our good friend Henry Kissinger has ever been both the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor at the exact same time. So modern day Henry Kissinger.
That's who we want to ascribe to be.
Yes, that's...
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, before we close out on this MAHA conversation, Nikki, let's just hear from her dear friend, Nicole Shanahan. So Nicole Shanahan, for those of you who aren't aware, was formerly married to, I want to say, one of the founders of Google. The marriage was short-lived. She ended up, they split up, and she got a great deal of money, and for a time was actually a major Democratic donor. In the last couple of years, she's since left the party and has really dove headfirst into the MAGA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement. In fact, she was not just the bankroller, but ended up being the running mate for RFK Jr. when he had his short presidential bid. So it's interesting that she would tweet this. I believe this was either last night or this morning. Quote, yes, it's very strange. Doesn't make any sense. I was promised that if I supported RFK Jr. in his Senate confirmation, that neither of these siblings, referring to Casey Means and her brother, who is currently a top staffer to RFK Jr., neither of these siblings would be working under HHS or an appointment, and that people much more qualified would be. I don't know if RFK very clearly lied to me or what is going on. It has been clear in recent conversations that he is reporting to someone regularly who is controlling his decisions, and it isn't President Trump. With regard to the Means siblings, there is something very artificial and aggressive about them, almost like they were bred and raised Manchurian assets. Okay, that took a turn, Nikki.
That's quite a claim.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned that Casey Means is the sister of Callie Means, because I know Nicole goes on about them being siblings. Who is an advisor, I believe, to
yes,
RFK.
Yes, I believe that is correct. So just the leopards eating people's faces party strikes again. MAGA on MAGA crime, MAGA on MAGA violence. It never ends. It never quite ends. Nikki,
We've seen how quickly you can be like thrust out of the party if you don't get in line.
Yeah.
So let's see who wins out on this one. And I don't like any of it, so there's really no wins for us, but
This is true. This is very true. Andy, I think we've reached the point in the show where we've covered the major news. We can now dig into some of our personal bugaboos, which I had to Google this morning because I wasn't sure if I was using it correctly, but I was, for the record. Andy, could we pull up that article that drove me crazy this morning about how ChatGPT has effectively killed the college experience? If we have it. So I'll read just a couple paragraphs of this, guys. Title reads, "Everyone is cheating their way through college. ChatGPT has unraveled the entire academic project." Chunkin Roy Lee stepped onto Columbia University's campus this past fall and by his own admission proceeded to use generative artificial intelligence to cheat on nearly every assignment. As a computer science major, he depended on AI for his introductory programming classes. Quote, "I just dump the prompt into ChatGPT and hand in whatever it spat out." By his rough math, AI wrote 80% of every essay he turned in. Quote, "At the end, I'd put on the finishing touches. I just insert 20% of my humanity, my voice into it," Lee told me recently. Lee was born in South Korea and grew up outside Atlanta, where his parents run a college prep consulting business. Oh, how fitting. He said he was admitted to Harvard early in his senior year of high school, but the university rescinded his offer and he was suspended for sneaking out during an overnight field trip before graduation. We can continue just a little bit. Yeah, thanks, Andy. A year later, he applied to 26 schools. He didn't get into any of them, so he spent the next year at a community college before transferring to Columbia. His personal essay, which turned his winding road to higher education into a parable for his ambition to build companies, was written with the help of ChatGPT. When he started at Columbia as a sophomore this past September, he didn't worry much about academics or his GPA. Quote, "Most assignments in college are not relevant," he told me. "They're hackable by AI, and I just had no interest in doing them." While other new students fretted over university's rigorous core curriculum, described by the school as quote-unquote intellectually expansive and quote-unquote personally transformative, Lee used AI to breeze through with minimal effort. When I asked him why he had gone through so much trouble to get into an Ivy League university, only to offload all of the learning to a robot, he said, quote, "It's the best place to meet your co-founder and your wife." Nikki, we can dig into this more in a second, but any just thoughts off the top?
I mean, this particular individual aside, yes, people are, I do think there's a lot of students now using ChatGPT, even though many schools strictly prohibit it. Like I know I just finished my master's degree in 2024, and if you were caught using AI, it was basically grounds for expulsion. So I don't understand. I mean, I know people do it. I know that it's hard to get around it, but I feel like for exams, there are ways. And I'm not sure what this means for the future of like students coming out of colleges these days. Is this impacting their learning? I do think there are some instances. As you know, we've discussed this before with ChatGPT. I'm not really anti-ChatGPT. I mean, in a school setting, yes, I don't think you should be using it. But I do think that it is providing some much needed help for people in certain areas. I have there are cases where I don't think it should be used, and cases where I can see where it can be very helpful. In a school setting, I do think that we're going to see schools come up with ways to combat this. Like, we have to remind ourselves that this is still very new. This technology is still very new. And as with any new technology, society needs to figure out how we're going to deal with this, how we're going to use this, like how are we going to keep people from taking advantage with this. And I think that those things will eventually be sorted out, I hope. I mean, we mentioned this on the show the other day when we talked with Eric Schmidt about how AI is going to either be 50-50 chance. It's going to be the death of society or it's going to be the savior. So I guess we'll have to see.
Andy, if you wouldn't mind pulling the article back up, and then can you Command F for Paulo Freire? It's Paulofr. Yes, perfect. I just want to read this one paragraph because this was also just something else. So the author is talking to a different student who also admitted to using ChatGPT. The author writes, I asked Wendy if I could read the paper she turned in, and when I opened the document, I was surprised to see the topic, critical pedagogy, the philosophy of education pioneered by Paulo Freire. The philosophy examines the influence of social and political forces on learning and classroom dynamics. Her opening line, quote, to what extent is schooling hindering students' cognitive ability to think critically? Later, I asked Wendy if she recognized the irony in using AI to write not just a paper on critical pedagogy, but one that argues learning is what, quote, makes us truly human. She wasn't sure what to make of the question. Quote, I use AI a lot, like every day, she said, quote, and I do believe it could take away that critical thinking part, but it's just, now that we rely on it, we can't really imagine living without it. Wow. Wow. Nikki, what do you think of Miss Wendy here?
It's upsetting.
I'm sorry. Again, this is a personal bugaboo. I know some people might not be interested in this, but I want to reread just one of those sentences. I asked Wendy if she recognized the irony of using AI to write not just a paper on critical pedagogy, but one that argues learning is what, quote, makes us truly human. She wasn't sure what to make of the question. Wow. Oh, we're living in an episode of Black Mirror. This is so bad. We're in the bad place, Nikki. We're really in the bad place.
There are ways around it, though. Like I think I was explaining to you with, so yes, I had to write a lot for my master's program, but we had exams where we had to write in front of like a moderator who would watch us. So there are ways to do this. Like I think you said, bring back the blue book.
Yeah, I'm sending this to Andy right now.
We just need to, I guess it's going to, if you're writing in front of the professor, you can't use AI.
Yeah. I want to read, this is just...
I think someone made a comment as well that there are applications that are coming out that are good at recognizing AI. And that's something that teachers could turn to. I'm not sure how accurate they are, but...
I won't read more. Oh, yes. This is what I tweeted. All of this is avoidable. None of this has to be happening. Just bring back the blue book. Just bring back the blue book. They're fully recyclable. It's not like the trees are really going to take a hit. Oh, my goodness. We can move on to another topic in just a second. But let me quickly just read a journalist I follow who summed up the rest of the piece. The way Steve McGuire puts it, quote, "For higher education, AI's takeover is a full-blown existential crisis. College is just how well students can use ChatGPT at this point. I think we are years or months probably away from a world where nobody thinks using AI for homework is considered cheating. It isn't as if cheating is new, but now, as one student put it, quote, the ceiling has been blown off. Who can resist a tool that makes every assignment 100 times easier with seemingly no consequences? Massive numbers of students are going to emerge from universities with no degree. Massive numbers of students are going to emerge from universities with degrees and go into the workforce and will be essentially illiterate. They will not be able to read. They will not be able to write. The humanities, and writing in particular, are quickly becoming an anachronistic art elective like basket weaving." So, Nikki, as a professional basket weaver, I take that quite personally. And I don't. So I was seeing people debate this on the internet this morning, and they seem to be of two minds. And there are about half of folks who do now view writers as basket weavers, like that the art form is just going to go away. And then the other half is arguing, probably because they're writers themselves, no, this makes my degree more valuable because now I'm marked as someone who can actually do something that 90% of the population can no longer do. I don't know.
I hadn't really thought about that, but
jury's still out.
Unfortunately, while I want to be optimistic and say that that's the mindset we should adopt, I don't think it's what will happen. I think that employers are likely to want more done quicker.
Yeah.
And that is going to unfortunately force even the best of writers to feel like they need to utilize this tool to keep their jobs, because what it's going to come down to is the fact that we, an industry where maybe we used to need 40 writers, well, now maybe we can do it with 4. If they're also using ChatGPT, you still have people to look through it. I can see that happening. And that is a big concern of mine, that this is going to really cause a big upset in the workforce, especially for people that write.
Well, Nikki, little girls used to have 30 dolls. Now they have to get used to 3. Companies used to have 40 writers. Now they're going to have to make do with 4. Let's close out.
Some of those writers are going to have to find a different profession that's not like basket weaving.
Well, they can screw in the little screws, Nikki. They can screw in the little screws.
Perfect. Or the mines.
The children are the ones who yearn for the mines. Andy, let's
particularly hard, seeing as I think I've told you, I actually was taken on regular field trips to the mines as a child.
Yes, you did tell me that.
Rural Pennsylvania, guys.
Let's close out on something fun. Andy, if you wouldn't mind, can you throw up the latest, I think it's called Kalshi, the betting markets on the current conclave. So for those of you who watched the show yesterday evening, we did a segment on the conclave, who's shaping up to be the perceived front runners. And Kalshi is a betting site where folks can put money on what they think is going to happen, whether it be an election or the Kentucky Derby or now the conclave, apparently. And for those, I'll save that for another time. But do you remember when the California wildfires were going on?
Yes. Don't.
Folks were using Kalshi to bet on whether or not the fires would continue burning. And that I was so passionate about this. I started calling my representatives. I was like, you need to shut this shit down now.
Incentive to go start fires elsewhere.
Literally incentivizing folks to light more wildfires. What are we doing? This needs to be immediately outlawed. Like, oh my goodness. Like, should we bet on whether or not someone's going to commit murder today? Anywho.
Oh God, I laugh only because it's so horrific.
For those of you just listening on Spotify, we have the Kalshi full screen. The Kalshi odds up now. Currently in the lead is Pietro Parolin with 32%. We have Luis Tagle, who I believe is progressive favorite.
I believe so.
He's from the Philippines. I'm going to jump over our next guy. We'll talk about him in a second. And then we have Matteo Zuppi with 10%. He's from Italy. A bunch of Italians on this list.
Yeah, well, I mean, most folks have been.
So I now want to talk about the person who's currently in third. His name is Pier Battista Pizzaballa. You heard that right. His last name is Pizzaballa, which I think is the most J.K. Rowling name for an Italian that I have ever heard. Pizzaballa. This is real. This is real. We're not screwing with you. We're not pulling your leg. This is a real man who very likely could be, well, I guess only 11% chance, but could still be Pope.
Yeah, I don't think he's the favorite, but
in fairness, I guess yes. What a Bala name.
The name.
In fairness, Nikki, neither of us are super practicing Catholics.
I'm
but
by no means of the word am I a Catholic now.
When cardinals are picked, yes, correct, Michaela J. When the cardinals are picked to be Pope, they choose a new name, correct? I think that's how it works. So I guess if he was picked, we wouldn't be calling him Pizzaballa, which is
well, that's no fun.
I know, it's so unfortunate.
I mean, I don't want to like spread anything that's false. I know I read a study that years ago that went along the lines of how, and this was pre-Trump, most Americans will decide on who they're voting for. A lot of people aren't as ingrained in the news as we are.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide who they vote for based on name recognition or the name. And I just feel like I'm hoping that doesn't happen with the Pope as well, because in that case,
Pizzaballa. All right, guys, we're just about done here. I'm going to put a link in the top of the chat now to my conversation with Jack Cocciarella last night, where we don't unfortunately talk about Pizzaballa, but we do talk about a bunch of things that I think you'll find interesting. So if you want more Don Lemon Show content, check that out after the show. Let us know in the chat what you would like us to cover at 5 p.m. And then Nikki, Andy, anything else that we have to say?
We are going to try at 5 p.m. to get some of our Lemon Legends on. I know, again, you're talking with us, not Don, but we'd love to chat with you guys. So I will send out a form shortly. Keep an eye on it.
All right. I think it is my turn. So guys, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Please share it. Send it to your friends. Consider becoming a member if you feel like it. If you become a Lemon Legend, you'll maybe be able to join us on the show tonight. But otherwise, the news is crazy. The news is depressing. So turn this TV off.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you.